I predict a Duke's victory.
Boom! Welcome to another episode of the Crush Fantasy Football Podcast. It looks familiar, Dolan. Welcome back.
Yes, Sawadee Kap basically means hello with respect.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It's like hello, Sawadee is hello, and then Thai is one of those languages where they add, like, similar to Japanese and other languages, where they add words at the end for, like, respect. And Kap is what you say if you're a man and you want to, like, add politeness. My accent is obviously terrible here, but yeah, you say Kap if you're a man saying it, or
like K-A-P.
It's like technically the English spelling is like K-R-A-P, but like the R is super, super silent, and it almost even has like a little bit of an L type sound to it. Almost like you're kind of rolling your R's a little bit in Spanish, but totally different accent. So it's probably not the best example, but I'm good. It's obviously nighttime over here. I think we were talking pre-pod. Not my best lighting setup I've had so far, but you know, we're working. It seems, fingers crossed, Wi-Fi is going to stay strong on this one. So things are good over here. How are you?
Dude, the viewers are used to it.
I know.
Like, my setup is just like an open door, and yours is some blurry ass light that you can barely see you. And hey, no, we've gotten feedback, which is good. We encourage all feedback, but maybe someday we'll record in the same country again.
I think maybe. I think, you know,
unless the Thai food is so good that you're never coming back.
Ooh. It's up there, you know. I think not enough to keep me away from home for that long. Only because of Snoop, though. I miss that little guy.
Dude, they forgot to give him up, and Christian, I guess, texted late, like, "Hey, weren't you guys supposed to come get him to Drew and Tina?" And Drew and Tina like, "Hey, weren't you supposed to drop him off like 2 days ago?" So behind schedule for Snoop.
As long as someone's looking after him, as long as it's not like they all left him at a house by himself or something, then we're okay.
So what have you made any friends out there? What was like the last week like?
I wouldn't say like friends. Like, I strike up conversations with random people, but it's not like I'm going out and like meeting someone and texting them like, "Hey, what do you want to do tomorrow?" I'm kind of just roaming around doing my thing. This week's been like not the best weather, and I'm in this like city called Pattaya that I have not been a huge fan of. So it's actually been like a big, just like spend a lot of time in cafes and write type of week, which is a little less exciting. But tomorrow I'm heading to Koh Samui, which is like an island in the Gulf of Thailand. So I think things are going to change a lot. Going to get like good, more of like an adventure vibe going. Yeah, dude, here it's kind of crazy. Like, there's this reputation in Pattaya of it basically being a place where like all the 60-plus-year-old single white people go for obvious reasons in Thailand. And I was like, it can't be that bad. It's a beach. I can have fun on a beach in a city. Like, literally everywhere I would look, it's like nothing but fat old white guys. And I'm just like, get me the hell out of here.
Actually?
Yeah. Like, it's insane.
No way.
That's literally like all it is here. Like, I thought it was just like a cliche, like whatever. It's like you probably find a certain part of town and that's what it is. But it's like the entire city. It's like Thai women and old white dudes.
Whoa. Well, one, I guess, do they think you're one of them? Are they like, wow, welcome? Like, think you're like a prodigy?
Good question. I haven't gotten that yet. But
like, they're trying to show you the occasional, ropes. Like,
here's
where you go at
8
p.m.
You know, the classic like old guy who just is like sitting at a bar and like wants to befriend anyone who looks similar to them or impart their wisdom on them. I've gotten a couple of that, but I wouldn't say I haven't gotten a, you know, you remind me of my younger self or anything like that yet.
Yeah, I'm just picturing White Lotus. Have you seen the most recent season?
Yeah.
White Lotus. The one
bunch
guy,
of LBFs over
his
here.
What does that stand for?
What they call loser back home, or LBH, losers back home.
Never heard that.
It was from White Lotus. That's what reminded me.
Really?
Yeah, like I literally thought of that line immediately. I was like, oh my god, like this is way too true here.
The one guy, his friend, who uses as the film director, who his dream is like he's just watching himself as a female. Yeah, never mind. I'm not gonna go. But yeah,
PG podcast over here. PG-13 maybe, but
dude, we're 13 after last episode. I didn't even edit the like posting. You just check the not for kids on YouTube, and then I think you're good. Nice. Sounds like you're having fun. Oh, it sounds like you don't. It sounds like
it's been awesome up until this point. This has been a fine, just like, okay, whatever. I'll use this week to kind of re-engage with being back home and being a real human again. I had like a couple job interviews and stuff. So, you know, made the most of it. And still, at the end of the day, like the beach is awesome. Like if all I'm doing is laying out, soaking up some sun on a beach, boo-hoo, poor me, right? I can only complain so much.
Yeah, looking at some LBF.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
Everyone here is asking, like, wow, Dolan's been gone a long time. I'm like, yeah, he still has a month and a half to go.
Yeah, I feel like everybody knew that was the plan. Yeah, but
it's like it's longer when you're actually feeling it. Like,
yeah, that's true.
All right, let's jump into it. Oh, quickly, what'd you think of the last pod? So, first pod without you,
I
Jackson.
thought it was good. It was funny. Thank you, by the way, for setting that up and keeping things going due to my Wi-Fi connectivity. Hopefully, my connection won't be an issue again in the near future, but good to know you can hold it down with some goons over there. I thought good dynamic with the trio. Obviously, they brought different perspectives and humor and everything. So, Luke, Jackson, huge shout out to both of you for coming through clutch on that one. A+ content.
It was whole. I was laughing the entire episode. It was so fun. All right. Then we'll get started. I'll do. Actually, no, you have something for me. A gift, one would call
it. Gift is not the right word. This is definitely not voluntary. To be very clear to our audience out here, this is me paying my debts. So 2 weeks ago, James and I played each other in our fantasy football lineup, and we decided let's make it a fun wager rather than just betting $20 or $50 or something like that. So I have to read him a poem that I wrote about him on air for the world to see how great he is. And so since this is a fantasy football podcast, I did skew less towards you individually, James, and focus more on your team. But I think the end result hopefully will make you and our audience happy. So here goes nothing. There once was a man named what's that?
Breakout clip already. I'm excited.
It's gonna be our most successful short ever. I can feel it. So here goes nothing. There once was a man named James. In fantasy football, he wins many games. He's starting off great. His team's 3-1, but we all know the winning is nowhere near done. When it comes to RBs, there's no one who's better. Some are saying this year they'll win him the cheddar. If you think that you'll win, you best think again, because 25 points later, you're looking at a chain. But it doesn't stop there with Genty the Raider, and Bijan the Falcon means he'll say see you later. But of course, that doesn't mean these three are the only issue. When you look at his roster, you might need a tissue. Those tears may be joy or may suggest fear because he has the best backup in Tyler Algier. But this is only the beginning and his team's on a tear. When you're matched up against him, you'll feel pure despair. When it comes to QBs, he loves Pat Mahomes, and he's even scarier when McCarthy's full grown. And don't get me started on his fantastic receivers, even though some would call DK a diva. But when it comes to fantasy points, he scores them in bunches. But for the love of God, get Garrett Wilson more touches. But the best of them all is Mr. Thomas Jr. James simply wishes the points would come sooner. But we all know it's just a matter of time, and he'll surely come through when the game's on the line. While he's not all in yet, he's certainly not folding, and he's got two young studs in McMillan and Golden. When playoffs come round, he's ready to take ransom, and the best part of all is he's so freaking handsome. All right, how'd I do?
Let's end the fucking podcast. Let's go. Don't pump me up. Oh my God, that's beautiful. Let's do it again. I want to run it again.
We do play each other twice this year, so we might have to. But my team will be in full force come week 13 or whatever it is. So you might be in trouble for that one.
Dude, that's what I keep hearing. Dude, I appreciate that. That was way better than I expected. Incredible. So I'm gonna go listen back to it. It could be a Netflix special right there. All right, Take Montezuma, sponsored by Soiree Season. If you don't want your wedding registry to shut down like the government, check out Soiree Season. Use promo code CRUSHFF for, I'm told, 20% off, and I'm told a link in 2 weeks, Tatum. 2 weeks. I didn't realize
what happens first. I'm back in America, or we get a Soiree Season link.
You're back in America. Honest opinion. You're trying to make it perfect for the listeners. Yeah, the wedding registry industry is a cutthroat industry. You have to be perfect before you put yourself out there.
As you should be.
We have all the faith in you, Tatum. Okay, I was talking to Casey and Tanner about this yesterday, which is why I didn't realize it was a hot take, but I don't like dips.
Also, speaking of Tanner, let's just pour one out metaphorically for Malik Neighbors right now, where you're in our prayers, Tanner.
Yeah. Tanner's lineup this week is incredibly rough, and Kyron just hung like 25 on him. All right, my take Montezuma is I don't like to eat dips like guac, queso, hummus, just any dip, any party dip, when they've been out for an hour. or more. I like to get the dip in like the first 15, 30 minutes of the party while it's fresh and new. But after it's been sitting out, it grosses me out. Like I won't touch it. Even if it's hummus, even like it's something I like, guac or hummus, if it's been out there for an hour, I won't touch it. But then if it's like the next day, you refrigerate it, it's the same hummus, I'll have it the next day after the fridge. It's just like when it's been out there, dips, I'm out. They said that was a hot take.
I think I agree with you if it's a warm dip. Like if it's a warm dip that goes cool, I'm like I'm out. If it's like hummus or something like
Yeah,
guacamole that's like coldish to room temperature, then I'm totally fine. But if it's like a drastic temperature change for something that's supposed to be eaten hot and fresh, I think I'm with
yeah.
you. But
But that's not my point. My point's not like a temperature thing. My point is like bacteria is building up on it. Like
but somehow
and
you
like
put it in
so
the
many
fridge and then
other
it's good the next day.
yeah, in my mind, yeah.
All right.
Also, I don't know, something about being the first person to dip a hummus is like truly incredible. Being like the 57th person to dip a hummus is kind of gross.
I mean, I'm an adult. I don't double dip anymore unless it's like I'm eating something that's very clearly my own. And maybe I'm too trusting and assume that my party faithful with me do the same. But that part doesn't bother me too much.
Maybe that wasn't the hottest take. Take Montezuma, sponsored by Soiree Season. All right, Dolan, what we're doing today is part 2 of our exercise last week of re-ranking the rookie running back class, looking at the consensus ADP going into the year and kind of reassessing after, whatever, 4 weeks, where we have these guys. So just a reminder, last episode we went over consensus, Genty, Hampton, Travion, Quinshawn, and Caleb Johnson. And so we're going to take kind of the next tier of guys this episode. You want to kick us off with number, I guess, 6 by consensus, Mr. RJ Harvey?
Yeah. So this is a guy who I went back and forth on, between having him ranked fifth and sixth, entering the season with Caleb Johnson, who we discussed last time. And I think just towards the end, Harvey barely edged him out for me. So I wound up having him at 5, and that is where he is today. And I think the big appeal for Harvey is, one, second round draft capital is always something you need to pay attention to, especially in like this class that's so talented at running back. The fact that he really stood out above all of I guess it was only Caleb Johnson who went in round 3, but then we just saw an absolute barrage of guys go off the board in round 4. The fact that like Sean Payton of all people stood up and said, "That's my guy," was, I think, a really good long-term prospect. I wasn't exactly sure what the backfield breakdown was going to look like right away. I did think Harvey would have a bit more of a role than he has thus far. But I think J.K. Dobbins has just been playing really good football, and like it's kind of hard to take a veteran like that off the field. But I would say week 4, granted, it was a pretty soft matchup against the Bengals. We did start to see, Harvey carve out a little bit more of a role for himself. And I think that's really promising moving forward. He did see 5 targets. And I think that's the hope for him as far as 2025 goes, of really carving out a role aside from a J.K. Dobbins injury, which, you don't like to bank on injuries. But if there's a guy who you're thinking is probably going to miss some time, J.K. Dobbins is not a bad one to bet on, or bet against, I guess, whatever you would say in that regard. And if that is the case, I think, Harvey has the opportunity to be a league winner or a week winner if it's, a short-term thing. But what this all boils down to for me is I think Harvey thus far has shown in limited action that he belongs on an NFL field. Like he's ripped off a couple big runs. I think it was week 1 where he ripped off a 50-yarder against the Titans. And I think just like on a down-to-down basis, when he's got an opportunity, he's looked good. But the real juicy part is Sean Payton running backs have historically been a goldmine for fantasy football. And even if Dobbins continues to be the 1A or even the standalone 1 in this backfield, I think Harvey will be able to step into a role where he can at least have flex-worthy upside this year. And then, Dobbins is only on a 1-year contract. I think that could potentially be wheels up for Harvey as soon as 2026, where he could really take a stranglehold on this backfield and dominate in what could be an up-and-coming offense. So I feel like I went in a couple different directions there. But yeah, where do you have Harvey today? Has that changed at all from where you were previously, and any color you want to add to that?
Yeah, I have him at 6, and I mean, it hasn't changed much. It's kind of been a weird start to a career for him, but I honestly think he's the second best buy on this entire list, and not just the 5, like including the top guys, just because of what you'd have to pay to acquire him at this point. The advanced stats have been pretty good. He has better target share than Dobbins. I think we kind of expected that. He's only at 8%. Typically, Sean Payton backs, like you said, are higher, so we can see that kind of increasing a little bit. He's 8th among all running backs in yards per touch, and he's 15th in yards created per touch. So I think there's like signs that he's a good player, and I think you said it perfectly, belongs on an NFL field. From a dynasty perspective, I think the bet is, are they really going to bring back Dobbins, right? So if they kind of ramp Harvey up throughout the year, will they really bring back Dobbins next year? RJ was kind of an older prospect, so I think you'll kind of need to see this sooner rather than later. But if Dobbins kind of maintains the same kind of snap shares the entire year, I'd be a little more concerned. But if you kind of start to see that Harvey's usage increasing week over week, especially the receiving role, I expected this to kind of him to take over sooner rather than later, but it seems like it's going to be the opposite, right? Because Dobbins has been so good.
Yeah. And I think the one thing I will add about 2026 and beyond is whether it's Dobbins or someone else, I don't think Harvey's ever, as long as he's, on Sean Payton's team, going to be a bell cow. Like, that's just not how Payton runs his backfield. But if he can become the 1A rather than the 1B or the 2, and specifically if he can get the receiving work, which is where he's shown a lot of promise, I think that's more than enough. And it's a good point that you brought up about the age, because like when I bumped him above Caleb in my pre-draft rankings, it was like, okay, yeah, I'd rather have the guy who's 21 or 22. I can't remember how old Caleb is off the top of my mind, but it was like, I think that these, let's call it 3 to 4 seasons you're going to get out of Harvey on his rookie contract could just be incredible. And, if he's 28 and doesn't have as long of a shelf life as some of the other guys, I think the high-end production I could foresee over these next couple of years being well worth it.
Yeah, and that's the bet you're making, right? Those 3 years on his rookie contract with Sean Payton as a 24-year-old prospect. Harvey, I think, is at like half of Dobbins' touches, somewhere around there for the year. And if that's closer to kind of 75%, I think you have to feel good about him this year as someone you can plug into your flex, and then next year as the real bet you're making. Yeah. And anything else to add? I'm a little concerned that last game against the Bengals wasn't like a real game, and they were up so big that a lot of the fantasy points numbers are a little, let's call it, inflated. But I guess that's what you have to do against bad teams.
Yeah. And I think the problem is, if there was a sliver of a buy window, fraudulent or not, the fact that he did look good.
I know. You almost want him to come back down to earth a little bit and put up like a 5-point this coming week against
Eagles. Will do that for you, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
Go Birds.
Yeah, disgusting. So then I honestly think he's a reasonable buy. Okay. So next, I think on consensus coming out of the draft, number 7, Cam Skattebo. Where'd you have him?
Yeah,
what do you currently have?
Really low on Skattebo pre-draft. And this is one where I am changing my tune already. Just for me, it's as simple as I don't like running backs who don't have a lot of juice. And what was it? A 4.7, 4.8, something like that. He ran at the combine. And, that paired with being a late breakout guy in college was kind of just left me feeling like, I think this is more a phrase you hear in the NBA, less so than the NFL, but like, a man among boys out there. It's like, I did not see his game translating very well to the NFL. But I think through 4 weeks, it hasn't just been the Tyrone Tracy injury that has Skattebo looking well. Like he's breaking a ton of tackles. He's actually 3rd in the league in broken tackles right now. And so just being a physical tackle breaking monster has translated a lot better than I thought. It has him all the way up to 8 in my rankings. 8 sounds really low, but like when you look at the 7 names that I kind of had on, these are all guys that are really impressive. And I think it does just speak to like, this is a rookie class that everybody was really excited about the running back position coming in. And it's living up to the hype, because even the names that I have below Skattebo right now, like these are guys that I'm also still pretty excited about. Maybe not as many for this year, but like long-term, there are a lot of talented guys there. And so, the ecosystem in New York is not the best. I think they're really going to struggle to put up points, especially without Malik Neighbors. But, I guess Jackson Dart showed a little bit of promise last week. And, if they can get some kind of crafty, creative run game with Dart pulling the ball a couple times and Skattebo becoming a workhorse, like I think this year, I have no reason to believe he's not going to finish as a top 20 running back just based on, the volume he's going to get. It'll be interesting to see if, Tyrone Tracy comes back, if he gets back into having a pretty heavy role like that split earlier, or if Skattebo really does just run away with it. Because, Tracy was a 5th round pick the year before. And so he's not exactly someone the Giants feel a ton of investment in. It's not like they're itching to be like, oh, we can't wait to get Tyrone Tracy back on the field. But yeah, I think Skattebo has just kind of broken the trend. It's still not a profile type that I typically like to bet on, but once you see it on the field, you have to be willing to pivot and adjust. And he is a guy who I'm still probably not higher than consensus on by any stretch of the imagination, but have come around to saying, okay, this is a functional NFL back.
Yeah, cool question for you. Has anything actually changed though? He's going to be a volume play, and right now he's getting the volume. Is that something you really like? We both have him, I think, at 7.
I wouldn't have
And
him at 8.
and now that we're you have him 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have him 7. And now that we're talking it out, I kind of think that it's like, how long is this really going to last? Like, yes, if he gets 20 carries a game, right, he'll be usable. That's not something you want to bet on, right? There's probably other guys with more talent on this list that you'd rather bet on.
To your initial question, like, has anything changed? Like, no, obviously he is still the guy. It's just I did not believe that what other people thought would translate to the NFL would. And so now I'm seeing that it has. Like, I genuinely came out and thought, like, he's going to be too slow. Like, he's not going to be able to break tackles at the rate we expected. And yes, he's still not fast by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not like he's so slow that, like, he's just, like, missing holes because he, like, has zero acceleration. Yeah. And it has been the broken tackles. Like, there have been numerous plays where we've seen him just, like, shrug 3 guys off and, like, oh, okay, I did not see that translating to the NFL. So that's the big thing that I guess hasn't changed about Scadaboo or his situation. It's just what has changed about my evaluation of him.
Gotcha.
Is the bigger thing for me.
Yeah, he's getting great usage. Mm-hmm. Right, I think he's 7th overall in red zone touches. The receiving usage in the 2 games without Tracy has been pretty good. It's kind of interesting, though. His really good receiving game was Russ's last game. Only 2 targets with Dart in his first start. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out. I mean, it seems like he's going to establish himself as an every down bruiser with Tracy missing the next kind of 2 weeks. And so if he can take that and translate that into a full-time role, I could see he'll churn out fantasy points. I don't love the situation kind of for this year and longer term. I think talking this out, I'm going to move him down a little bit. Like, is it possible this is the highest we're ever going to see his value? Like right now?
Yeah, it might be. It very well could be because, he's not RJ Harvey old, but he was, a 4-year college player. So it's not exactly like he's, one of those guys who's coming out at 20, 21 years old. So yeah, I can see it. I mean, I think there is a world where Tyrone Tracy comes back and, maybe Scadaboo has solidified himself as the one, but he's not a workhorse. And it is more of like the 60-40, 65-35 split. And I think that could be scary on an offense that still doesn't project to be great this year, even though they did pull off the upset in Dart's week 1 start. I'm not banking on this being a group that we can count on moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely don't think Tyrone Tracy's going away. That's a team that needs, let's call it, different types of talents on the field. And Tyrone Tracy has definitely shown something in a year and a half for them to just totally put him on the shelf. And so whether it's a 3rd down role, whether it's some sort of split, I think they're going to try to get him on the field in some capacity when he's back.
Yeah, especially with Neighbors going out too. Like, the Giants do not have a particularly deep receiver room. It's like they might just have to do something crappy. And maybe it's something where, Tracy does have that receiving profile and maybe there's like some pony sets and Tracy's like a pseudo slot receiver, that type of stuff. I just have a hard time banking solely on this offense. Again, I think he's going to put up RP2 numbers for the remainder of the year, even if Tracy comes back, just because I think he's pretty quickly going to become the focal point of their offense if he's not already, I guess you could say, with Neighbors out.
Yeah, I think let's actually talk about that. Like, the exercise we're doing is a dynasty exercise. So we're not looking at just kind of the rest of the year horizon. We're looking at a 2 to 3 year horizon. And so obviously putting up fantasy points in the current year is valuable to years 2 and 3, but it's not everything, right? So I think we're trying to balance both of those things in kind of our rank.
Yeah, like going back to Harvey, I think I would prefer Scadaboo in just like a pure redraft scenario. It's like all I want is production this year.
Agreed.
I would prefer Scadaboo. But if you're telling me, hey, this is a guy I have on my roster until I trade him or till he retires, I'm still taking Harvey over Scadaboo for sure.
Agreed. All right, let's move on to the next one. So I think number 8 in consensus ADP to start the year, Bashal Tootin. Where do you have him ranked?
I want to let you kick this one off because this is actually a good one. I think we can maybe do a little trade talk in here. This is actually a guy that you bought a couple weeks ago. I can't remember if that was right before the season started or after like week 1 or so.
Before the season.
But I'd actually love to hear you kick this one off and tell everybody what you gave up for him.
So I gave up 3:26 seconds for
Thirds.
Facial
Thirds, right?
Thirds. Oh my God, thirds. I said seconds.
Yeah.
I would the worst. I would have been the worst manager ever. 3:26 thirds for Bashal Tutin. And you're gonna think I'm crazy. I have Bashal Tutin ranked number 5 overall.
Wow.
On my Dynasty.
When you had Harvey at 6, I was like, wait a minute, who's 5?
Yep, Mr. Tutin. Okay, so besides Judkins, I think Tutin has looked the second best with the ball in his hands, maybe besides Genty last week also, of all the rookie running backs. He has a lot of advanced numbers compared to ETN, where he's actually performing, albeit very, very small sample. He's actually been the better running back. So missed tackles per attempt, I think he's at 0.29, third best in the whole NFL. ETN's at 0.17. Percent of yards after contact, Tutin's at 65%. ETN's only at 46%. I think it was an exceptionally good sign that Jacksonville was okay trading Tank Bigsby before the year for peanuts, essentially to get Tutin on the field more. ETN's role was always going to be ETN's role. They made that Tank Bigsby trade, in my opinion, purely to get Tutin on the field. ETN's in a contract year. So who knows how this shakes out? ETN's been very good. I really don't want to take anything away from him. He's been very good this year, but he's also in a contract year. Who knows if they're going to bring him back next year? There's a non-zero chance that this will be Bashal Tutin's backfield next year. He was the first running back drafted with this kind of regime, the Gladstone-Cohen combination. So they took him early 4th round. And then it's a good environment. So ETN's, they're obviously running the ball incredibly well. ETN's been one of the best values in fantasy all year. And so the offense looks to be putting some things together. I trust Cohen. And so whoever is the starter in this backfield, I think has a lot of fantasy potential, upside. And that's why I think if he can get that role, and it's an if, not a guarantee. I have him at number 5 as essentially kind of the ceiling, if it all shakes right. But I think there's a lot to look at that makes me optimistic. So I know you probably think I'm crazy. Talk me off the ledge.
No, I don't think you're crazy. I mean, I think, we are definitely at the point in these rankings where it's relatively interchangeable to an extent. I think there are 2 guys I have like pretty clearly above him. And then after that, there's a little more jumbling together, I would say. But I have Tutin down at 10. And so, he did crack my top 10. And I think a huge part for me, he wasn't a guy I loved coming out. I was like, okay, like crowded backfield, feels like he might just be kind of those one-trick pony guys with his speed. But everything you said about Tank Bigsby is what really resonated and kind of had my eyebrows perk up a little bit because, again, that is a pretty significant sign from the Jaguars that like, hey, we need to create a path for this guy and try and capitalize on a guy who we can clearly do without by offloading Bigsby, who, as an Eagles fan, like why the hell did we give up 2 picks for Tank Bigsby if AJ Dillon's still going to be the RB2, but don't get me on that rant. So I'm with you. Like, I definitely understand the optimism. I see the path. I think he's a guy who, if Travis Etienne does sign elsewhere next year, it's going to be like he probably is worth 3 seconds. I'm like you misspoke earlier. Probably borderline first at that point, especially depending on how this season shakes out. If he shows some promise towards the end of the year, that's going to be different than if he is kind of an unknown because Etienne continues this workhorse role. But I do think your belief in Liam Cohen and the offensive infrastructure is really valid. I know we haven't really seen Lawrence make the jump that we wanted to and the whole offense that goes with that. But I think one of the biggest things people were really excited about with Cohen is like how well he does with the running back position. And we're seeing ETN have a resurgence. And I think whether it's at some point this year or next year, if Tutin gets put in that position, he's going to be a tremendous asset for fantasy. So I'm not willing to make the big bet that you are. I think because largely, not that it's a huge bet, but I'm not quite willing to make the bet that you are and have him inside my top 5 or give up that draft capital for him. But this feels like one that could very easily pay off handsomely for you next year if the situation breaks right.
Yeah. And I said Harvey was my second best buy. Obviously, Tutin's my best buy.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are the 2 where I think what you can get him for now, I think there's a ton of upside in both cases. Where I think Scatterboo is like you're paying full price, and even a couple of guys we're going to get to, I think you're paying more full price. I think these guys do have that upside that they're worth throwing the darts on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's for the sake of time, let's keep it going. I guess later in the year, number 9 consensus ADP, Mr. Commander himself, Bill. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, and so we, have been up until this point going off of like preseason ADP of like basically when we drafted. And so we are skipping a few names here because they didn't crack our current top 10. And I think in most leagues, Krosky Merritt was at the time of rookie drafts, probably a 4th round pick or undrafted. I've never seen a 7th round rookie just get this much hype before playing an NFL game as Krosky Merritt has. It's pretty crazy, but I have him all the way up at 7. He hasn't exploded, but I do think he's looked really good. I think the one thing, I haven't watched a ton of Commanders game. I caught the Packers game because that was a primetime one. And I thought he looked pretty solid there. I saw, some of the highlights, obviously, but the thing that really stands out to me about Bill is he's PFF's number 1 rated rusher right now. And I get that that's not, a firm stat. That is still, someone sitting down and making those evaluations themselves, but it's closer to objective than just, me or you sitting down and watching the film or something like that, when they have, a methodical process over there. And then obviously, the Commanders offense hasn't been a juggernaut this year, but a huge part of that is Jaden Daniels being injured. Sidelined is the word I was going for there. And I think, when he comes back, this offense is going to be putting up buku points. And I think the way Krosky Merritt's been running from, what I've seen in the PFF grades, like I do think he's going to emerge. It's kind of a gross 3-way split right now, but Chris Rodriguez and to a lesser extent Jeremy McNichols aren't really giving the Commanders much. So I think it's only a matter of time before Krosky Merritt becomes at least a 50% share of the backfield here. And so, is that the greatest situation when you're already going to have, Jaden Daniels taking away some touches as a rusher and, he's not exactly someone who targets the running back a ton? No, so I don't think the offensive environment's going to be perfect for him, but it is going to be an offense that scores a lot of points, and he's very clearly a pretty talented back. And so that's why I do have him, all the way up at 7. Now, in my rankings, I just, 7th round is usually not something that I want to bet on that draft capital, but eventually you got to open your eyes. And when someone's performing this well on the field and they're in a good offense, you kind of have to trust that talent will ultimately win out. And frankly, I'm pretty surprised that it hasn't yet with Eckler going down. Like I could have seen this type of backfield split shaking out if we still had a healthy Eckler, but the fact that he's out for the season and, they haven't brought anybody else in kind of has me wondering, like, when is the other shoe going to drop for Krosky Merritt? And it does kind of just feel like it's a matter of time. And I think when that clicks, when Jaden Daniels is back in the lineup, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a guy like I think Krosky Merritt's ceiling is tremendous for the latter half of the season if everything starts to click. And so that's why I have him up at 7. Hard to crack the 5 guys we talked about last time for me, or I guess the 4 guys in Harvey, plus a name we haven't gotten to yet, who I'm super high on as well. But yeah, where are you at with Krosky Merritt?
It's been the craziest roller coaster. First, it was just the amount of hype for a 7th round pick was just out of control. Then they trade Brian Robinson. And then game 1 happens and Eckler gets so much work. And then it's like, okay,
but
the other side of the roller coaster.
In like a 40-yarder or something.
Then
like
he scores.
Too. Yeah.
Then he scores 40-yarder. Then Eckler gets hurt, and it's like wheels up again. This thing's taking off, rocket ship. Then it's now Chris Rodriguez is active, and so now I think people are down on him, and especially from a redraft perspective, people are down on him. So I think it's going to land somewhere in the middle. To be honest, I don't think what people were talking about, where I hate the term league winner, like the positive spins at before the year started were getting out of control, and the last 2 games with the game scripts and splitting with McNichols and Rodriguez, I think it's not going to be as bad as it currently is. So I think we're going to land somewhere in the middle. Like you said, the numbers are really good. Yards created per touch, he's at like 4.29. Yards per touch, I think he's 7th overall at 5.8. So a 72% success rate. And so the advanced numbers are there. I think you can easily make the case he should be getting more work. I think the Commanders haven't shown a propensity to use him as a receiver, right? So I think McNichols will probably hold that role throughout the year. And so it'll be a little bit of a split, but I think as the season goes on, more of it will go Krosky Merritt's way. But I'm not sure from a long next 2 to 3 years dynasty perspective, I don't feel confident that it's like, okay, the Commanders have found their guy and you have a 3-year starter. I think that's possible. I think it's in the range of outcomes, but nothing that's happened so far, even with the Brian Robinson trade, makes me super confident that's the case. And that's why I think I'm a little lower. I haven't met, I think, 8th overall, and honestly trending 9th. We'll talk about the next guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that uncertainty is actually why he's probably my favorite buy low doesn't feel right because obviously you have to pay significantly more than, draft season. But I do feel like his price has probably fallen a little bit from where it was week 1, week 2, week 3 even, because of the way the backfield's shaken out. So, granted, we both play in leagues with a bunch of Washington fans. So like, I don't think in our leagues specifically, he's going to be a great buy, especially not for Johnny. Like you have to pay Saquon prices probably to get him off of Johnny. But I do think if you are in a league that's just like a neutral perspective towards the Commanders, I think he could be a great buy if you're getting him for anything less than a first round pick. I'd say so. I am still pretty high on him.
Why do you think they traded Brian Robinson?
I think that they
Do you think it was because of him?
I don't think it was because of him. I just think they looked at it and saw, I think they thought Chris Rodriguez was actually the reason they could trade him. I think they looked at it and said, okay, Krusky Merritt's clearly going to have a role. And if we're just going to use B-Rob as purely a bruiser and nothing else, we can get that production out of Rodriguez. And it could just be a more organic, less locker room friction than having to, go through a benching and kind of dealing with that type of stuff in season. So I don't think it was to elevate Krusky Merritt. I think it was just like, we really don't need this guy. He's going to be gone soon anyway. Let's make a trade. And I do think also sometimes it's just, Adam Peters came from the Commanders GM came from the 49ers. I think sometimes it's also just like handshake, good business partner kind of situation.
Doing them a favor.
Yeah. And that sounds, generous. I could also see it being something like that where they just looked at it and they're like, Brian Robinson, like he had some good years, but I don't think he's more than an average running back at best. And it's just like, if we feel we can get average with these 3 other guys who are younger, let's give him an opportunity.
Interesting. Okay. I assume you have a poem written for this guy as well.
No, but I could probably freestyle one, honestly, if I really wanted to. But this is a guy, obviously, we've talked about a ton going in. And, this was a guy who was in that Krusky range of like 4th round pick, undrafted. And I never really understood that low of a ranking, but we saw it last week. Woody Marks just absolutely exploded. And he was like my guy coming into the season. I was just looking at my draft rankings. I had him at 20th overall, which made him my RB7. And he was the guy who I was just like, I don't see why people are overlooking it. It just does not make sense for me. And so like a lot of the other names we talked about, he was one of those guys who was drafted in the 4th round. But the thing that really stood out to me was the Texans gave up a 3rd round pick next year to get him. So in my eyes, that is 3rd round draft capital, not 4th round draft capital. Obviously, you can time value of money, say that's a little less or whatever. But the fact that they went out to get him and to really get ahead of what was clearly the beginning of the RB rush in the draft, I think goes to show just how much faith the Texans had in him and how badly they wanted him. And so I always thought, coming out, like a lot of people were like, oh, he's a pass catching back. And like, he's going to be this, he's going to be that. People treating him as almost like this, kind of Nyheim Hines, like purely change of pace guy. And I never really saw that. Like, I think too many people like to use the phrase like, oh, he's this year's Bucky Irving or whatever. But that is like really the comparison I had for him. It's like, yeah, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he can still do everything from a schematic perspective. Like he can run well between tackles, he can run outside, and he is a very good pass catcher as well. And so I just thought he had a really complete profile. And the way I looked at it in the draft is like, yeah, I probably would have had him even higher if we knew the Mixon injury news before the draft. But when Mixon went out, it's like, yeah, you see it, like Chubb's the guy, but Marks' snap share has gone up every single week. And then he absolutely exploded last week. He had like 150 all-purpose yards. Basically, he was involved in the passing game. He was breaking tackles, making people miss. And he wound up with like around 60% of the snaps. And after the game, D'Amico Ryans came out and said, we want to get him more. So I think he is, if he hasn't already, very much in the process of snatching that job. And, granted, the Texans' offensive line looks terrible, but one of my, maybe galaxy brain theories was that would actually be an okay thing for Marks because it would lead to a lot of quick passes and dump offs and cater well to his role while Chubb really struggled to get off the ground. But man, I absolutely love Woody Marks. Like I have him all the way up at RB6. He was a guy who just, pre-draft I loved. He just kind of like was my super dark horse sleeper. And then I really liked the landing spot in the draft capital we got. And so just like kept getting more and more all in on him. I in one league, I won the ship, and so I had the last pick in the second round, and I spent that on Woody Marks. So like I put my money where my mouth is, and I cannot wait to see what it looks like this week against the Ravens defense that has been awful against the run, and I'm expecting Marks to once again get 60+% of the snaps, probably I'd say good 2/3, and I'm pretty pumped. I'm actually putting him in my starting lineup this week, so I think putting him in over a veteran, just goes to show how confident I am right now. But rein me back in a little bit. I'm obviously feeling pretty high and mighty after his 27-point outing last week. But I think he's awesome. I hate to be cheesy, but I do think he is this year's Bucky Irving.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that far yet. It's an interesting time to have the conversation because he just had the game, right? If we had this conversation last week. So no, I'm feeling a lot like you are. He did only play kind of a little less than 60% of the snaps. That number seems to be going up. Nick Chubb hasn't looked good. Everything's kind of just shaken out right for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Mixon injury, the lack of competition, Nick Chubb. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to see why you would want to get the explosive rookie who's looked good, who's fifth in yards per touch in the entire NFL. It makes sense why DeMeco Ryans would try to give him the ball more. I do think the games will be there. The rushing production, I think, will be a little hit or miss.
That O-line is so bad.
The O-line's so bad. The offense is so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so if Chubb still gets the goal line touches, I think kind of last week is the best of all worlds, right? They're playing the Titans. It's going to be interesting to see how they play that terrible Ravens defense this week. Yeah, I like what I see from him. I think this is a case of late round guy who just, you have to see him do something in their first year for value to increase in Dynasty. And so we'll see how it shakes out. His price is going to keep rising. And so it's going to be an interesting discussion in the offseason, I think, whether they bring somebody in, whether it's his job, whether you're like, now he's a sell. And so I think that's going to be the interesting discussion. But for the rest of this year, I think it's wheels up, like you said. But I have a question for you, for me in another league, that's going to hit home in two places. Oh. I have a start-sit decision between A.J. Brown and Woody Marks.
I think we need to pause and just – the fact that we are asking this question shows how good Woody Marks is. It obviously also shows how poor A.J. Brown has played, but I would still continue starting A.J. Brown. I know it's frustrating, but this is just, like, it's not going to continue forever. It does suck that this is the week where he might get the Pat Surtain treatment, but I do think the squeaky wheel is going to get the grease sooner or later, and I think they'll call up at least a couple plays where it's like, hey, we're going to get him away from Surtain, we're going to get him in motion or something. Maybe it's just a slant drag, but like I think Surtain's an awesome cover guy, but I think if you can get AJ Brown the ball in front of him, he's not a bad tackler, but he's not someone who I'm going to bet on bringing down AJ Brown one-on-one in space if those two are on an island together. So I would still go AJ Brown, but it is surprisingly close.
Yeah. I almost think all of the A.J. Brown drama is probably good for them trying to put a little extra oomph in getting him the ball this week. Man, Woody Marks, I can't believe you got him. $1 more fat from me. All right. Actually, let's go through our top 10 real quick. Give everyone a recap, 1 through 10.
Yeah.
Your current
Dynasty. I have... Starting at number 1, I got Omarion Hampton. Number 2, Quinshon Judkins. Number 3, Ashton Jeanty, which hat tip to him for finally breaking out, and you, I should say, for him, finally doing what we were hoping for this past week. Number 4, I got Travion Henderson. Number 5, RJ Harvey. Number 6, that bad man Woody Marks. Number 7, we got Bill/Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. 8, Cam Scadaboo. 9, Caleb Johnson, and rapidly declining there. And then number 10, Byshell Tootin.
I'm changing mine up a little bit on the fly just because this is how I actually feel. So number 1, Ashton Jeanty. Number 2, Omarion Hampton. Number 3, Travion Henderson. Number 4, Quinshon Judkins. Number 5, Byshell Tootin. 6, RJ Harvey. 7, Cam Scadaboo. 8, Woody Marks. 9, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt.
Number 8, baby.
10, Caleb
8
Johnson.
And rising. And soon enough, you'll have that bad man Studkins rising a little further too. I thought that was going to be your in-game change after he balled out again this week.
No,
I'm still high on Henderson, obviously.
That's my thing. It's not an anti.
For sure. Again, this class is so good at running back.
The top 4 is sick. All right, cool. Welcome back, Dolan. Man, I missed you.
Still miss you, brother. We're still quite far away. But you enjoy your day. I'll go enjoy my night, and I'll see you virtually next week and in person in a month.
Don't get too cozy with the
LBHs.
LBHs. I love that acronym.